All right. So let me just put this link straight away into the uh, this one meet, so that everybody gets access to this. The challenge, is it there already? No. Okay. Here's the challenge link straight away on the website. Just go there and let's just pick up the challenge, and we will straight away get into the problem mode, right? So everybody, let's get into that our website, click on the challenge, and straight away we have this problem. Which states are performing below average? A very random sort of statement, right? That okay, what is the context? What are you talking about? We'll build onto it. So this is a problem which requires decent data wrangling skills. And when you say wrangling, it's like all about mixing, mashing data, applying a lot of operations, filtering data, sorting, group average, joining or merging data, windowing. So that all these are like data operations we do. And it doesn't matter. Today you have DAX, tomorrow you will do in Spark, day after tomorrow you may do in Julia. Doesn't matter. Okay, so the fundamentals again remain the same. What kind of data operations we do on the data. So hold on. Just want to ensure a few things before I. All right, good. Yeah. So we'll be focusing on data wrangling, and our tool of choice is going to be Power BI. But at the same time, we will be switching between Excel, because one of the fundamental beliefs I have is that Excel really makes you think, because you do things manually there. So once you do things manually, you get, all you need to do is transform that into code. So code just helps you do things faster, right? It doesn't automatically or magically does something. So there is logic already written into that. So if you want to understand that logic, come out of that function and try to do things manually, and you'll get the idea very clearly. Okay, so that's how we will be doing, and we'll quickly reinforce our ideas which we have. And at the end, the expectation would be that all of us go back with something additional, right? All right, so DAX is going to be the focus. What's the problem statement? So you are running e-commerce business across the US. Great. During the annual business review, you would like to know which states have sold better than the national average, which ones are below the national average. So there is this jargon which is used in BI industry: indexing, over-indexed, under-indexed sort of. So generally you would see like your consulting teams talking about, hey, would like to know which states or which categories are over-indexed, which categories are under-indexed. And that means that, okay, you draw an average and then you find out, okay, which have done better than average, which have done worse than average, right? So that you can, there can be two things. You would like to focus on the ones which have been really good, really better than average, why they are better than average. On the other side, you would like to also focus on why there are these states which are not even crossing the average, right? And if things go better, if the states which are below average, if they start doing badly, the average is going to fall down. Let me just, I'll just open my OneNote. I really like, say, drawing and sketching while we talk. So let me just come here. And let me quickly get into the Blackboard mode. I really love that mode. It's dark and it looks like a Blackboard actually. So yeah. So what I was talking about is that you have this visual, and you are basically hinging around the average, and these are the ones who did better than average, and these are the ones who did not do. So if these guys start doing badly, then this average line is going to fall down, which is an indication that overall things are moving towards the worse, right? And these guys start doing better, then the average line starts moving up, which means that, okay, you are doing better than last time. So the idea is that you have to almost see that this average line goes up. So basically, if you see in time series, you would like to see your data moving like this, right? So that's the idea. The business would like to focus that, okay, if I have to run, if I have to do what's say insights, right? This is an insight. That, okay, these are the best states who have done way better than average, and these are the states which have done way worse than average. So let's understand what's good here. Let's understand what's bad here. So should we even focus on selling in these states? Maybe the things going wrong is not under our control itself. So let's just pull out of the business from these states and only focus on these ones. Focus is important in business, right? So which are doing good, analyze why they are doing good, and reinforce that. Keep putting in some more programs, bring in loyalty programs, provide discount offers, whatever, provide personalized experiences for customers in these states because they have paying capacity. Okay, that could be the reason, right? So that goes into the essence of the problem, right? And that's why I mentioned that why is this insight important? And this is how something we have been looking like that. Okay, you have this visual, and then and this is something which straight away helps us that who's doing good, who's not doing good. So here we straight away have this average line, and you see all the states which are above the average line, starting from Virginia here, Virginia, or I think Minnesota, starting from Minnesota here, that goes up to California, which is way above the average sales. And then the second, on the other side, you see from Virginia onward, on the other side, you have Delaware, North Dakota, really bad. I mean, much worse than the average. There could be hundreds of reasons for that. Maybe you see what we are trying to show here is sales, and sales is an aggregation metric. More people purchase, that sales could be, what is sales? Sales is price into quantity, right? So the number of units sold, it's like price into number of units sold. So either this should be high, or this should be high, or both should be high. That will result in higher sales, correct? So it could be just because that those states have higher population, right? There are more people purchasing, and hence you have more units being purchased, and hence sales goes up, right? Or the there are first the customer base was X, now the customer base is 5X, right? But the units being purchased per person is same. Or it could be that per person the units purchased is increased. So earlier I used to purchase 5 or 10 units on an average. Now I'm purchasing 15 to 20 on an average. So that also pumps up the units, right? The second thing is price. So if you increase price, generally people are really price sensitive when you think about grocery and all, right? So they'll be very price sensitive if you change the prices of say grocery today. I'll go and purchase from a competitor, right? So price becomes sensitive. But in the end, if you are saying that these are doing worse than average in terms of sales, which means okay, there could be either less units are sold, or it could just be it's a very small state. Its population itself is small, right? So coming to a conclusion, it's a different story altogether. But this is an example visual which we are going to pick up, and we are going to backtrack and try to understand what are the different approaches with which this could be solved. Okay. So Vineet worked with me on this problem, and he came up with his approach. I had put an approach, but I was not satisfied. And then Vineet came in. He came up with a really satisfactory solution to this, and it helped me actually learn more about DAX, and it made a lot of concepts clear. So without any further ado, let's just start the workbook. Let's straight away download that. You can click and it should get downloaded straight away. And just get into Power BI, and let's open that. So let me open this one. Browse this, download. Just open this. It should open straight away into your Power BI desktop. And the good thing with Power BI is that it has a lot of tools in it which can make it as a standalone data collection to cleaning, to wrangling, to consumption. It could be taken as an end-to-end data pipeline in itself, right? Of course, it has its own restrictions, but for any analyst who's beginning their career in say data analytics, or any person who is from a non-IT background, like business analysts, HR, like customer success team, product managers, it's very helpful from them because it does not require a lot of tech per se. It requires more like you need to be thinking more logically, able to say if you can write functions in Excel, more or less you're done. You can do things here, but there are few things which get tricky, and that's why DAX has been say a pain point for me for a long time. And I started recovering, and I think I tried to figure out how I could break down any requirement, and I could do that. And that is something I wish to share, and would like to also learn from you. All right, so we get into Power BI desktop, and all we have is a single transactions table. I want to look at the table. we get into the data section, and you can quickly have a look. It should get loaded. A lot of records here. You have an order ID. I think this one is the super popular Superstore data set. Okay, anyone who doesn't know super data set, I would say please go back and start learning Power BI properly, because that comes from Tableau, but it has become so popular. It's a great data set to don't worry a lot about data quality, and you can just focus on some of these scenarios. So, and that's what we want to discuss, some scenarios. So we have a lot of information into this one, and you know that whenever you have any data set you load, you think about few things. You think about granularity of the data set. You think about what's the primary key, what should be the index of that data set, right? Because then you may have duplicates in the data set. How do you take care of them, right? You may have wrong values in the data set. How do you take care of them? So those are some of the data quality decisions, and some of these cleaning steps which we try to understand how good quality the data has. Standardization, for example, names of these states, right? Somebody can say Gujarat, G-U-J-R-A-T. Somebody can say Gujarat, G-U-J-A-R-A-T, right? That's non-standard. But if you put in the this one, the IS, what is that? International standards. So that code, right? ISI code, and then code is something we can use, like INGJ. It's a standard code which you can use, and that will be available at multiple places. That makes the data much cleaner. But understanding that, we come back to this one, and we see that the data is about transactions happening in a company. So the story we talked about, Global Mart, you basically have got access to the transaction level data, okay, of that company, which means that this customer, Tammy Goldman, she has placed an order, and that order ID is 90436. So basically, just to make the scenario clearly understandable, if you see here, your order is going to repeat, because if you look at this one, the same person, Wesley Tate, this person purchased two products, where one of the product belongs to office supplies category, which is this one, and another product belongs to the technology category, which is this one, right? And of course, this was purchased on the same day, and different units were purchased. So if you go towards the right side, you have these different units being purchased. You have got the profit, what was made in that transaction, right? And what the date it was ordered, what date it was shipped, and the sales of that, all this thing is mentioned. So basically, the granularity of this data is at line item level, right, or transactions level. That's the first thing we take away. So now, if we have to think about, okay, just like in Excel, okay, if we have to do calculations, on top of this, right? For example, if one calculation could be that, okay, what is the price point? We have got sales, we've got quantity. So what would be the price point of this? At what price this was sold, right? So in that case, if you think, these are some of the basics. I'm quickly wrapping it up so that we get into some of those functions which you want to talk about. So how do we do this? How do we do this in Excel? So what I'll do is I'll also just ping you the link to the, one second, link to the link from which you can download the backend Excel here, so that we can parallelly work with Excel and Power BI. We can keep switching between that. Just give me a second. Let me just there. You just click and it should download the data set. It's the same data set which sits behind this Power BI dashboard, and we can open it and we can start working together. And some of this would be basics. So for experienced guys, you can just sit through and relax. Okay. And if you want to comment anything, feel free to do so. You can just unmute and talk. Okay? I may not be able to see the chat window a lot. Pratik, help me in that if anybody puts any question. But yeah, other than that, the best way is that we're a small group. Just unmute and talk. Right, let's go back. So here, if we had to calculate, say, the price point, what would we do? It's pretty simple. We know the sales, that we have to divide by the quantity, right? And just click and drag. Right? I think I have some filters applied. Let me remove that. Let's click on the first row and go to data and remove this. Oh, yeah, that's why. So I have this price point. Let me just drag it down. I'll do it again so that I can drag it easily. Sales by quantity sold. And I'll just go and drag it down. What happened? Oh, that was filter applied. No? This data haphazardly put there. Now it should go down straight away. Yeah. So we got pricing, right? Pretty easy. But what's happening here? That's quite important. That if you see, first I wrote a formula, X by Y, right? Sales by, so I'm basically referring to two columns, right? And then what I did, I clicked on this handle and double clicked. What it did, it dragged it down. What does dragging mean? Dragging means that this is happening at each step, right? It is happening at each row. So it is going to the next row. And if you look at the formula, this formula is changing from V2 to V2/U2, V3/E3, U3, V4/U4. So with every change in the row, it is the calculations are changing. So calculation is happening at a row level. It's a row level calculation, right? So that and what it did at the end of this, it has created physically a new column called price, right? It has physically created, you have increased the size of the data from X to X plus delta, which is the size of this column, right? That's exactly if you have to replicate this in Power BI, this kind of a scenario where you have to do any row by row calculation, you come and you write a DAX expression on a new column, right? So you have, if you look into this one, DAX has multiple options. It provides you something called as a measure, something called as a quick measure, something called as a column, and something called as a table. So you have these four handles, I would say, in DAX expressions, which you can use and you can solve your problems. So same thing, if I had to do in DAX, whatever we did in Excel, all we have to do is write a new DAX expression where I have to do the calculation of sales by profit. But the point is, which one you should pick up? Should you pick up this one? Should you pick up this one? Which one? So, simple rule is that if there's a row calculation happening, okay, you straight away you create a new column, exactly as we did in Excel. So we'll go ahead and try creating a new column, and let's call that column as price. And let's put it as sales. I'll move pretty quickly here. Sales by quantity. Correct. And I just need to say, and I'm just hoping this is something which would be done in quality check, that there shouldn't be any row which quantity ordered new as 0, because if that's happening, that's a quality problem. Because why should there be an entry if there is no quantity purchased, right? That's absurd. That should not happen, right? So that's why I did not care about handling, say, denominator 0 in the denominator, right? But in case you have to handle 0 in the denominator, how would you approach? I'll put it to audience here. That if I have to handle the 0 here at the denominator, I know that it should not happen. That's a quality issue that should be solved at the source level and not by us. But still, if you have to handle that situation, how should we modify this DAX expression so that it handles any 0 also in the data?
You can use the if error function and have this division within that.
Exactly.
And provide the alternative.
Exactly. Exactly. I'll do that. Just help me out. This was sorry, Vineet, is it?
So it's Ashwar.
Ashwar. Oh, thank you, Ashwar. Sorry, I'm not able to see the that screen there. So I'll say, okay, this is error. Then you say, okay. Then the next point would be that how should we put it? Because if I have to put a number, price as 0, that could again be a sort of a a bit misleading, right? Okay, what do you mean by price 0? So what we have done is we have ensured that this is not going to throw a problem. But then the point is that is 0 is also something which how do we interpret that? So I'm not going into that one, but this would be a good solution to it. So not just doing the calculation, but you also have, you can wrap it up with error handling function. And if you see, there are different error handling function. If I go to I have to do is just go to DAX reference and DAX reference, and we'll be able to just figure out what are the different functions being available. And it just doesn't matter. All the functions are something which you need. And in the first look, for the new guys, at the first look, you know that these all look like Excel functions, right? And that's why I said, if you're good at Excel, you can figure out very quickly and get started with DAX. So here in this one, if you see, we wanted to have and say information function. So like is error or if error. So this is error is again a function which can help you to handle error. You have NA. So there is in Excel, you have functions which help you handle not this hash NA function error. So that also is available in this one. And all we need to do is keep exploring what helps you. Or even if this is a bland way of going to ask Google, all we do is just straight away ask, okay, error handling in Power BI. Okay, this should give you tons of, see, first thing is if error. I mean, if I had to solve it, all I had to do is ask Google, right? It will give me if error, I can explore, I have to figure it out, and I can go ahead and solve my problem, right? So good. So we are good at the first part, and this is the example of going for a new column, and this is one of the fundamental places where people confuse. Okay, so let's do the other thing. Okay, so that you just wanted to randomly start. So I wanted to do this thing. I just came here. Okay, if I didn't tell you, maybe you could have clicked anywhere. Okay, so maybe you click this one. Okay, I have to calculate a price. Let me go ahead and calculate a price. So I clicked on measure. Let's call it as price 2. And again, what I'll do is I will use sales. Okay, see what's happening, right? You see what's happening. It's not working. You can't access that column itself, right? So it is going in this one. If you're going to create a measure, first thing is to understand why a measure is different than say just a column. Okay. So for the benefit of the new guys, anyone, Ashwar or anyone, would you like to comment on this? That how do we think about measure differently than a new column?
So measure is basically what happens. So when you create a row, it happens at one level.
True. True. Yes. Super. Right. 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 True. True. That was spot on. Let me just decode a bit what Ashwar mentioned when he talked about row context, filter context. These two are one of the most fundamentals ideas when you have to think in DAX. Thinking about two contexts. Context is a perspective. Okay. Let me go to basics and talk about what's a row context. This is a row context, right? This is a row context. So if I have to say, pivoting in this one Power BI Excel, right? So if I have to calculate, say, region-wise sales, what I'll do is I'll just click on it, and I know that all of you must be super smart in pivot. So I'll just go ahead and create a pivot, and let me bring in the region here, and let me bring in sales. Okay, so what I created an aggregation, right? I created an aggregation at a region level, but still this is a row context. This is again a row context. So when row context means a row in Excel, just map in your head, row context means row in Excel. So this is a row context. This is a row context. If you guys are no Power BI, this is what is called as level of detail, right? So LOD. That's exactly what LOD is in Tableau, and what is it's your row context in Excel or in Power BI, or just row in Excel. Okay, so we just get to the basics and we understand this. Now, what's filter context, right? We talked about there's a filter context, there's a row context. Row context is a row. What's a filter context? Filter context is again, it's again simple. What it says is what it means. Filter context is this one. I go ahead and filter this for consumer. This is my filter context. Context means I filtered on consumer and the records which I have got after selecting consumer. That is my context. That's a perspective. I'm now looking at the data which is for the segment consumer. That's my context. If I have to take away that context, what's my overall context? My overall context is this one. Shall we change our context? Maybe I want to change this context to just keep it for. Now the filter context is I'm looking in under technology. All the records are for technology. Okay. And second thing, he talked about memory persistence. Okay. Again, breaking down to the simplest of understanding, what is memory persistence? This thing. This is now sitting in memory. It has increased. I told you it's increased your file size. So it is being written and you can use it now. But now let me put a challenge again for the ones who are starting off. We calculated this quantity pretty easily. Okay. What would be your approach of calculating profit margin? I don't want the experience base to talk about. Okay, so what would be your approach of calculating profit margin here? Okay, so anyone among Ramanan or the other guy, just feel free to think. I would encourage that you think about how would you go about it in Excel. Try to do this in Excel. What I want is that you give me the profit margin at a state level. Give me the profit margin at a state level. Okay. So what is profit margin? First of all, very quickly, profit margin is that, okay, how much money you make per dollar of sales. So which means your profit margin will be total profit on the top and total sales at the bottom. Divide the two, you get something in percentage, right? That's your profit margin. Right? Just quickly think on it and try it out. And I would be very happy if somebody tells me that, okay, I have done it and this is how I have done. I'm stopping my screen share so that I'll also do it. I hope others can also do it. Everybody, let's try do it. And then we'll come back and I'll just check and let's see how do we go from here. So I'm going ahead. I hope my screen is stopped. Yes, it is. So let me go ahead and do something here. And don't worry, approaches can be different. My approach could be very different than yours. That's not the point of interest. Point of interest is, are we able to do it? I am done. Others? So whoever is done, just put yes in the chat window. And then we will discuss the approach. I'm done. I'm putting yes. And okay, let's hold on. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'm not going to show the solution quickly, but let's discuss first. And there we go. Okay, now it's open for everyone. Okay. Okay, so Kiran or Kishore or Ramanan, do you guys have an approach of how will we do calculate profit margin in Excel, state-wise profit margin in Excel? What approach would you like to talk about? I would like to talk about the approach first. Forget about how do we do in Power BI and all. Hold on, I'll just close it here. All right, so let's get back then. Okay, now when we have to calculate profit margin at state level, the first thing we would be doing is I have done this way, right? I have created a pivot table, and I have created that this would be my sales and this would be my profit, right? And this is what is happening is we are receiving at a state level, right? And then this, what is this? This calculation, if you see in Excel, if you know pivot, this is the operation which is happening on this is sum of sales, right? And this one it is having sum of profit. Now, if say somebody can say that I have done this before, and people have said that okay, the profitability would be like this one. Here, if you go, it will be profit by sales. Right, sorry, profit, not W, it should be V, right? Profit by sales, and I've got this one. So I am calculating profit, and then people have used this profit margin to calculate, to aggregate at a state level. So here people said that, okay, we have done this, and now I can do an average of this. I hope nobody would do sum here. Somebody said that, okay, I'll do average of this profit margin at a state level. Okay, and that would be my profit margin for that given state. But what we have done in this one is I am calculating at a state level. I have done a total sum of sales and total sum of profit, and then I'm saying that I am going to divide the two. I'm going to divide the profit, the total profit for that state by sales, and that would be my profit margin. Which approach do you think is the right one? The first one or this one?
Second one is good.
Second one is correct. If second one is correct, then I think measures should be now clear to you. Point is, it is not complete yet. So when I'm saying here sum of sales by sum of profit, and I'm doing at a state level, this is basically my row context. So in this context, I am calculating the total sales. So what does this mean? This means that how does Excel work? So for calculating this, first it has a row context called Alabama, and actually when you talk about a row context, what I understand is everything is actually a filter context. It's just that what is the filter is defined here previously from beforehand. So here what is asked, it is saying that I will filter my base data for Alabama first, and then I'll calculate sum of sales and sum of profit. So basically what internally Excel is going to do, or Power BI is going to do, is it's going to come here, it's going to select Alabama, and for that Alabama, it will calculate the total sales, which is this one, 126 something, and total profit, which is 1071. You go back, you get exactly the same values, and the profit margin is calculated, right? Yeah, this is specific to Alabama, because if you see, when you think about row context, which means it is already provided that, okay, in which context I'm talking in the context of Alabama, which means translated to context means you just apply that filter. So I'm just talking about in the context of Alabama. In that context, I'm calculating the sum of sales, which is this one, and sum of profit, which is this one. And I go ahead and paste it here. If you had to do this manually, how would you have done that, right? This is also done by the sum of function, right? Sum of function, it would say that, okay, what is the range? What is the criteria that should match with Alabama? And then it will be summing the range. That's exactly the same one with as group by, right? So, and now if you have done this for one, If you have to repeat it, what will you do? You'll pick up Arizona, go back to your data, again, change the filter, change the context from Alabama to Arizona. Okay, calculate what the total sales, 120 something, what's the total profit, 43506 something, go back, go ahead and paste here. You have to do this repeatedly. You have to do this, 52 times, 50 times, right? If you had to do this manually, you would leave this session and say, okay, no, I can't do this, right? So that's where what Excel does is Excel helps you with aggregations. It says that, okay, you aggregate it first. Aggregate means do a sum of sales, sum of profit. Excel does it for you. And then you take the data out, and all you have to do is a simple X by Y calculation, and you convert that to a percentage. So you get this. Now, if I ask you that, okay, same thing, I want to now have not by state, but by category. Right, I can have the same thing, right? Instead of the state, right? I would like to have this by region. We have already done this, right? By region, I would say no, not by region. You give me by category. You give me my subcategory. Basically, I can keep changing my row context, but keep changing my context, right? And it should be calculating that again and again. That's where when Ashwar said on the fly, that's the word which will make sense here, which means I, as a user, should be able to decide at the time of creating the visual, what should be my context, what should be my dimension which I'm passing here. You pass on that dimension, and there should be a formula which should be keeping in mind that, okay, this is what I have to do, and return those values repeatedly for each context. That automation is what DAX is doing for you. So if I go back and talk about this one here, so what it is doing is, you just, if you know Python, or if you've done any programming, you know what a function is, right? In Python, we write definition, function name, right? And then we pass on the parameters, parameter A, parameter B, or arguments. And then we have the logic, which is written inside, right? Same thing. If you know Python, just map it here and think about it, about measures as what it should do should be here. For whatever context you are passing to this function, it should be summing up the profit and divide by summing of the sales, and then it should be returning that. So what context is being sent, that gets decided on the fly, or what we call it as in runtime. Okay, so new column, when you create, the calculations happen statically, right? Compile time, this one, the calculations happen at runtime. And we'll again see what do you mean by runtime. When you create visuals on the fly, drag and drop, that's runtime. That's when the function knows what is the context being provided to me, and I'll go ahead and then do the calculations, what has been prescribed in this function. All you do in measures is write this function. That's it. That function does not get called right away. So let's go ahead and try this now. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a try. So what we are going to do is go back to Power BI, and now we need to write what we just understood, that we should be writing in this case, because row by row calculation, we already rejected that method, right? Because it was wrong. So we want, so new column cannot be a solution to this. It has to be a new measure. So you click on new measure, and let's call this as profit margin. And for this function, I do not need to pass on any argument, right? No parameter, that will be decided runtime. So all you need to explain to Power BI is what is the formula. So formula is sum of profit by sum of sales, and you say okay. So if I was what I'll do is I'll convert it to a percentage format actually. Okay. So you can do that, that's fine. But since we already have formatting, so I can format it straight away on top of it. Okay. So we did this, and if I was right, I should not get any new column being created. You see, no new column is created. You see the icon of this one looks like a calculator. See the icon of new column, it is different. All right. So profit margin, if we do this, this is a function right now. And what do you think map that function in Python to measure in Power BI? So this is a measure profit margin. This calculation hasn't happened right now. This calculation will happen at runtime. And what does that runtime mean? Let's go ahead and just quickly build this visual. Let me create a visual. Let's create a simple bar chart. And I want to calculate profit margin. So let's put that in value. And before that, we should be putting it as a percentage in a percentage format, right? And I have this basically sets 2 decimal places, which will make it look good. And I want to see this profit margin by state. That's what we wanted to do first, right? So let's go ahead, state or province, and let's put it in Axis. What happened? We see that for each of the state, we got this profit margin calculated now. See these values changing values, right? It was not calculated before, it calculated right away. As I clicked and dragged, it started doing the calculation row by row, whatever we discussed in Excel, right? It has done that and it has put it here. This cannot happen. This cannot happen while statically, right? It will not, it is not persisting this into memory. It's important to know the word persistence. That means it is writing it. That disk is, it is burning it into the disk, right? So it's sitting in the memory. Sorry, not burning the disk. It should be in the memory now. It's in the memory, computer memory, and that's why you're able to open, right? It has done the calculation and showing it here. Is not saving it anywhere. Now, this should be your first entry that to get an idea of measures. So when you talked about on the fly, this is on the fly. When you talk about persistence, there's no persistence happening here. In new column, there was persistence happening. Okay. Now, I'll just hold on for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and we'll wait for people to finish off. And one small challenge on top of it to the especially the new guys. I want to see the ones which are profitable as green and the ones which are not profitable as red. Okay. So very quick, because if you see, this is good by measurements, by numbers, but this is not good visually. So we can improve visual appeal, right? So all the positive ones I want to have as green and the negative ones I want to have as red. Give it a try. I'll be pausing my screen share right now. And good thing is that at the end of the session, you can, in the same challenge, I have a place where you can click and upload your work. So I'd highly appreciate if you do that. That would be awesome. So I'll give 2-3 minutes, quickly build that visual of profit margin. And then that's an additional challenge. I call that sort of a chocolate problem. I don't have chocolates. Maybe I can send some e-chocolates. But yeah, that's how it is. Give it a shot. Right now I'll come on video just to show my face. Give it a try. And then if the idea of measure is clear, then we will move forward to the actual challenge which we were talking about. And we will get into some of these expressions, DAX expressions, where we'll be focusing a lot on measures. There's one point I wanted to talk about the implicit versus explicit measures. I'll see if Pranay, if you want to talk about some of additionally on the measures part, that would be awesome. And if you want to say pick up any add additional thoughts on this measures idea, I think that's most welcome.
Yeah, sure. So talking about measures, basically we do that part for aggregating on different ones. Suppose that we have one discipline profit
True. But on top of it, if we start thinking like measures is like it can solve all our problems, again we are going wrong side, because measures do they do runtime? Ashwar, you want to expand on it? Right. Profit, yeah, right, runtime, yes. Right. Correct. 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 Right. True. Right. Right. So if the calculations are complicated, yeah, which means that it's like I'm asking you at the exam time that now you do it. So it's going to be the loading of the dashboard at that time becomes slow because a lot of processing happening at that moment. With the new column is happening, it's already done, saved. All it is hit and fetch it. That's it. So that makes it faster. So it needs to be balanced out. Yes, Ashwar, you were saying something. Right. Yeah. True. Exactly. True. True. Right. True. True. Exactly. Exactly. So those are some of the decisions which you will take only when you are facing, say, bigger data sets. Because smaller data sets you don't even notice because the general processing power of our laptops is 8 GB memory and some good CPU. So it will face that problem when we are actually hitting millions of records. And there also, I mean, we may talk about Vertipack engine sometime later, but how basically Power BI kind of compresses the data. So it's kind of, I think it's more than 90% compression rate, right? So it basically, that's where the Vertipack engine comes in. It compresses the data, and the reason of compression is the columnar database, because it's actually a columnar storage, which happens on the Power BI side and in general in data warehouses also. Yeah. Okay. Coming back to this one. So now I think the idea of pre-calculation versus runtime calculation, that's the basic, which is separating a column and a measure. Suppose I put a sort of a negative test case here, that if you had to calculate, say, this expression, whichever we calculated, right? So this expression which you calculated, if that calculation you do as a new column, what's going to happen? If the same calculation, what we did in profit margin, if we do the same calculation as this one, but as a new column, what's going to happen? Will it work? And so why not try it? Let's go ahead and see what's going to happen. Okay. So instead of speculating, let's do it. So let's go here. Hold on. Exactly. That's if we understand why that's going to be the same. I think again the idea of the row context would be pretty clear. Okay. So others, I mean Kishore, Kiran, do you guys get it? Why if I go ahead and create a new column, the same formula as a new column, what he's saying that all the rows will have the same value. You get why? Let me know. Don't, what we'll do is let's actually do it. No, it doesn't take, it hardly takes a minute to do this. So this one, okay, somebody is joining in. Hold on. Okay, people are joining. There are a few people joining in. That's great. Okay, so coming back where I was, BI and where is this one? Yeah. So this new column, I just do the same thing, but suppose I mistakenly use a new column there and I'm putting the function there. So I create profit margin 2 and I do the same thing, whatever I did for measure, right? Sum of profit and by sum of sales. Exactly the same thing I did, right? And I said, okay, what should happen? There should be a new column created because it persists in memory, right? It is happening before. So it did. Let's see. See what it do? What did it do? It has copied the same values in record. And what? Oh, it's not sharing. Okay, I'm sorry. Thanks for that. Okay, I had stopped at that moment. Hope it's visible now. Awesome. Yeah, that's what happened. I just went ahead and created a profit margin, but not as a measure, but as a new column. Pasted the same formula. See what happened? It copied the same. What is this 0.1466? This is actually the ratio of total profit across the table. So basically, what is this one? You come back to this one. You pick up the, you take away all the context here. So basically you take away all the filter here. Just 1 second, let me, it's a bit annoying this thing here. I try to remove the filter, right? And total sales, this value, and we have the total profit, this value. So this value divided by this value is what coming as 14.6. It is like what it is doing is for every row, it is doing everything. I mean, sum of overall sales, profit by sum of overall profit sales, that's what it is repeating for each row. So it is doing it correctly. It is doing row by row. That's what it is supposed to do. But what it is doing row by row is the same formula, same value it is repeating. So you have to be very sure that if you have this kind of a measurement where the calculation need to be deferred to runtime, your calculation need not be calculated right away because you do not know what's the context. Hence, you should defer it, and wherever you want to defer the calculation at runtime, go ahead with a measure, not by a column. Okay, and this is something I would suggest try more practicing on this one, and you will get this into head. It's going to be wired into your brain after some time, right? It would need a bit more on practice. Yeah, so this new column which I created, so you just did the profit margin using a measure, right? And what is this new measure? I again created as a column, okay, not as a measure. But you see what happened? This is not what I was expecting. What I was expecting is I should get a profit margin at state level. But if I try to create a profit margin like this is going to be the result. It's going to copy the same value, which is overall profit margin of 14.66% into each record. And that's why this is wrong. All right. So with this, this important discussion of measure profit, this one measure versus a column out of the picture, let's get into the problem statement. So now let's talk about what's the problem statement talking about. So the problem statement is talking about, again, to find out the states which are over-indexed versus the states which are under-indexed. And when we say over-indexed versus under-indexed, which means beyond average and below average. Okay, so let's see again, how will we do that in Excel, right? First thing first, we will be aggregating. So we will be aggregating. We don't need the second aggregation. So we can remove things from here. All I need is sales till now. And I'll just take this data and keep it here. I don't need this one now. I delete it. And what do I need to do? I want to do a calculation. I want to do a calculation where I want to tell that, okay, this one, this value which is coming in, is this better than the average or not? Which means you have to calculate the average first. Okay. So if I have to do this here, okay, I had this data. This is my data set. How will I proceed in Excel? Anyone? What should I do to get to that, whether this is better or not from average? How do I get that indication? Right. So what will be my natural approach? I would just be doing an average. Let's not do it here. I'll go do it on the top itself. What I'll do is I will do an average of what? All these values, right? And close this, right? This entire data set. This is what is my average. And this one, if I drag it, I was expecting that I should be having the same values, but it is not. Can somebody tell why? What happened wrong here? I've calculated the average, but if I drag down, it's actually not showing the right values. Can somebody help me? Where I have gone wrong? Exactly. So what did he say? He's saying that if you look here, look closely to the formula. Okay, B2 to B50. This one you see B3 to B51. And if I double click, you see this bigger window. This window is what is going to calculate the average, right? If I go to the next one, because of relative referencing in Excel, it is going to shift down. See what's happening? It is shifting down one more cell, right? And if I move down, now the disaster starts, because now it is taking the overall total also as a part of this window. So we are mistaken because we are not keeping this window fixed. This window should not move, right? And to do that, what we do is we basically tell in what direction. In this direction, I do not want my cells to move. So if I put dollar is what it does the fixing. And as soon as I did that, you see magic, done. So we have got, I don't need these two, I can take it off. But now every cell, my total, this window is now fixed, it's not shifting, right? So this window, this actually, when you think about window functions, I would say, think about this window, okay? This window is not moving. So that's one thing. You got your average, and all you need to do is a simple if else, right? And if this is less than this, then 0, otherwise 1, and I can just click on this one. And I want to now know that I will say the overall average, and I would say indicator, and then I will put a filter here, and then I will select only those records which are 0, which means they are lesser than average. So these are the under indexed states, right? And if I go ahead and try it out here, these are the over indexed states. Any question, anyone, that the Excel solution, anybody has a problem here? Any question, doubt on especially how did we fix this? The term is relative referencing in Excel. And then if you think about this referencing, it is just going to help us now to go ahead and create a similar thing in Power BI, in DAX. Okay, so this exactly is now we are going to, because this is how we would have approached it manually. Okay, we have done it. It's done. All I have to do is create a chart here and give in the color. I can use 0 or 1. I can put 2 colors and we are good. So let's get back. Now I have to do the same thing now with our friend DAX. And our friend is going to now say, how would we start? Let's use a pretty simple, this one, simple visual. of a pivot, right? Pivot we do in Excel, we can do it here. We want to do it by states. All right, let's bring in state here in row. Simple. Let's bring in sales. Pretty simple, right? And what I'll do is I'll just go to view and make it maybe just actual size so that I can clearly see. And I can click here and I can sort it. Sorting is not that important, but I just sorted it because again, when we're talking about over indexing, under indexing, this is what we are going to talk about. Right, so we have got all the states here and their sales. And this is the first step, which is pivoting, which we did in Excel also. Same thing. All right. Now we have to talk about we need to have the next step is to calculate the average. The average needs to have a fixed window, right? How do we think about that in Power BI? So again, here for every row here, some calculation needs to sit. That's a single calculation of average, and it needs to sit here, correct? And that average calculation should include this value. If you see this value, which is the sum of sales, so it should pick this value and do an average. So what did I do? If you see here, I had first did a calculation, and this calculation is dynamic, right? In Excel also. And then I copied this data and pasted here, which means I'm persisting this. And then when I'm persisting this, then I'm doing this average calculation on overall data. So basically for each row, if you see, for each row, and remember row context, for each row, I need to do the calculation for all the records, right? Because this one calculation, again, it will take the entire window. This one, it will take entire window. So, and what I explained is whenever you are in a single row, you're talking about row context. So this 126706, how did we arrive? We just go here in state of province, we select Alabama. So we go to filter here, I select Alabama, I'm done. Okay, so I've got sales. But the next step is that if I have to calculate average, what do I need to do? I need to come out of this filter, right? I need to come out of this filter. And I need to then get all the states, basically all the states. I can come here and I can deduplicate this. I'll get all these states, and then for all these states, I need to do the sum calculation, right? And then do an average on top of it. Now, if I if I have to do say average, if I go ahead and say, okay, maybe let's try it out. We have sales, okay, and it is doing sum of sales. And if I go ahead and next one, if I just pick up sales again here, and I change here, and this is basically your implicit measures. So here we are just changing what would be the behavior. And when we do this, this 1137 is actually the average of all transactions within the context of California. That's not what we want, right? We want average of all these values which are printed here. That's what we want to print here. So this is not going to work. So I just an average of sales, not going to work. Okay. So first thing first, what my formula had to do? My formula had to first of all go ahead and get this list of states. So how do we get list of states? So for that, we have to do a calculation. And calculate is one of the most, I'd say, most used functions for doing any kind of calculations. Let's quickly visit that and see what does it say. The calculate function. Let's come here. Let me just search it. Calculate. And very quickly, it does some calculation in the filter in the provided context. Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be provided with some filter context, right? Something will be filtered out, and then on top of it, you'll be performing some expression, right? So let's see first of all. Let's go back. So I have to write a calculate function, which is going to calculate some expression, and that expression is going to be printed here. Okay, let me go ahead and pick up the scenario where I had actually done it. So I know that we'll have to cover a few more things. So I will go with something I've already done. So let me just go ahead and pick that up. One second. which one I had done. Let me just go ahead and check. One place I had done that. Let me put that. Okay, no problem. So first thing first, let's come back to the one which we are working on here. And this, let's take it out. And we have to create a measure. We know that. Let's go ahead and click on that. And then we'll think how do we go ahead and calculate it. Okay. And this would be my average of sales. Okay. And then what I need is calculate. And I need to write some expression. Okay, I'll think about it. But then I have to provide a filter. So now here I will be talking about this one, all, say all selected, all except. What does this mean here? Okay, so whenever we use all function, it says that take away all the filters which are applied and then do the calculation. Why I'm saying this? Because here, if you see in this one, for every row which is being calculated here, right? We want to get out of that context. That was the scenario. Let me open that. I think I have this one. Just quickly open that so that I don't have to waste a lot of time. Just give me a second. I think it should be here. Just one second. We have 40 minutes, so that's fine. And it's okay if we don't cover a lot of things, but whatever we cover, that should be spot on. So let's try it out. So browse reports, and let me open from the source itself. Yeah. So I'm opening the workbook which I had solved in this one. So I have already provided the calculation. So I'll open it and then we'll try to break it down, that why it is working the way it is working. Okay. Let the visual come. It's slow. I don't know why. Okay. On one of the pages I have mentioned. Yeah. So one of the ways here was when we talked about it. At first, I had to aggregate, right? And then I wanted to take an average of that, and then do the calculation. So this one, if you think about it, the approach, if you say just like Excel, was that first persist it. So to persist, whenever you want to say do some calculation, DAX also provides you a way to persist your outcome, right? And that outcome is what we call as derived tables in Power BI. So derived tables which are created out of DAX expressions. So if we see here, we had already seen that what are the options we have in Power BI. So new measure, quick measure, new column, and this table. This basically is just like SQL. In SQL, if you write some query and that outcome you save as a table, that is exactly what's happening here. So my approach was, when I tried out, my approach was that, okay, let's go ahead and create an outcome which is at state level and aggregated and sales aggregate. This is exactly what pivot is doing in Excel. So I went ahead and did this. Okay, so for that I used the function summarize. What is summarize? Summarize is exactly what we do in group by aggregation in SQL. If you have written select sum of sales, comma, state from transaction, group by state, that's exactly what summarize function is doing. So if you want to do any kind of group by aggregation in Power BI, go ahead with summarize function. What summarize function does? It will accept which table you want to summarize or aggregate, which is the dimension column on which you want to aggregate, what is the aggregation, and what is the name. So you can provide one table name and you can provide multiple columns as the dimension to aggregate on. So I could give state, I could give state category, I could give state category customer segment, I could give any. So I'm just changing the granularity with that. And then I could I can continue giving this combination of name of the measure and actual measure, name the measure, name the measure, right? So I can continue. If I have done this for sales, I could continue this by comma, do a shift enter, and I can write the name of it. Name would be total profits. Total profits. And then I can also write the, okay, I have taken the same bracket there, right? And then I can again write sum of profit here, right? So I can continue doing this. So once you do this, all you have to do is say, okay. So it's going to do the calculation, and the outcome of this expression is actually a table. So important, the outcome of DAX expression can be a scalar or just a number, or an outcome of DAX expression could be a collection of values, which could be a column or a table. So scalar or a tabular. And tabular, it could be a single column or it could be multi-column table also. So those are two outcomes, and it's important to know what a DAX expression gives what outcome. Okay, so here the DAX expression is giving a tabular outcome. That's why you have an option of new table here. Okay, so once we do that, we say okay, and what we see is a new table gets created. This table is persisted. Persisted means this table is something which is there in the memory, and you can use that table now to do your calculation. You always use that table to do your calculation. And what we see here is that we have got the state or province already there, total profits, total sales already being there. So if this is the one which I had done, so let me open this one. I go to the, since it is persisted, I can actually look at this one, right? You see my state and sales. These are the two which were created. This is the function for that. Simple. This one aggregated on what is the column name, what is the expression. And once I do this, then my job becomes pretty easy. Why? Because I've got the access to these values. All I need to do is go ahead and first of all create a new column which is average. And if you see here, now this makes sense to me that it should repeat for each row. When we did it for transaction table profit margin, it did not make sense. But here it will make sense, because if I just take average, it's going to go ahead and keep repeating for each of the row, right? And this is exactly what I wanted. And then all I have to do is create a simple if else. This is again a column. So till now I have not created any measure, right? Column, and a table. So an example of a table which you can create out of DAX, and then column, which is again the very simple one. So I created a simple where that it is greater, and whatever we did in Excel, I've done it here. 1 0 1 0. I've got which states are over indexed, which states are under indexed. And once I'm done with this one, I can go ahead and simply have to create a bar chart. I've created a bar chart where I've kept the sales. Very simple. And this time I'm actually using this table and not my base table, because my base table was at this level as what it is at transaction level. And this is the table which I've calculated, because I want to now access this color value also, 1 or 0, right? And that is something I'm doing by going into the data colors, and I'm going to functions. And here I'm just providing a simple rule, right? That this average check, if the value is equal to 1, the value is equal to 0. If it is 1, keep it blue. We could change the theme and make it as green, and this could be red. And I can say, okay. I can actually just go ahead and change the theme here. use the regular green and red theme, and so that then I can go here. I can change. Would it not? Oh yeah, it got changed. And then I can say, okay. Yeah, much more relatable. And once we are done with this, we go to the third option, and I can add a constant line here. So I can, if I remove this, and I'll open it for Pranav or this one, Vineet, if you can talk about that. Would that be a better way of doing this? So what I did was I just said, okay, like add an line, constant line, and I just typed in the value. Maybe I could have also done a simple average. So I could go here and I can say sales, and I would do the average of that and say okay, and that should draw the average line for me, right? See, it's drawn the average line for me. Maybe I can put it as in a different color or to make it easily identifiable, right? And maybe we can reduce the transparency so that it looks more bold, and maybe anything is, can I increase the thickness? I'll keep a solid line. Okay, so done with this approach. There is a different approach, but it's done because what I've done is the way I've thought in Excel, I just translated that in DAX. Although I may have done additional steps, maybe this is not the most optimized approach, but this is one approach. Okay, the way we thought in Excel, exactly the way we are just like translated in Power BI. So for that, I had to first aggregate at state level. Once I'd aggregated, then access all these values and calculate the average. Then I calculate the indicators and go and use in this visual. Any question when we complete this visual on this example? Okay. So this approach, it worked for me, and this is how it happens at work. Something which works for you, done. It's okay. We'll think about the optimizations or the best ways later. But first is get things out of the table, right? It's good. But see, there are several things happening. First of all, I am persisting a table, a full table in my model. So I'm increasing the size of the model. Smaller data set, not a problem. But again, when you think about work, when you think about job or real production, you don't have control on size. Okay, you may have to access millions of records. Okay, or so here, if I'm doing aggregation, which is fine. So in this case, or in most of the cases, it should still be fine, because even if your base data has millions of records, in the end, you are aggregating at a state level, which means you will not have more than 50 records. That's fine. So this decision is okay for me to take, because what I'm doing is it's basically balancing. So I said that I'll create something which I can pre-access. I can just pre-access that, so my visuals will be faster. So there's no runtime calculation happening. I have pre-calculated this table, and I'm accessing that table, pre-calculated those two columns, and this visual will be blazingly fast, because only the rendering time is what it's going to take, which is again near to zero. Processing time is just going to hit, fetch, and build. So it's going to be fast. Okay, but I have increased the size of the model. Yes, I have done that. Okay, could there be a better approach to doing that? I may say better or not better, but I would say different. So there is a different approach, where at that stage you have to start thinking that, okay, whatever I have done here step by step, that somehow DAX can do by itself. So that's where measures come in, and measures can do a lot of calculations within themselves, and that's how you can use the power of measures and reduce the dependency on a lot of, say, extra tables and all, and get this done. And that's where Vineet came in picture, and he helped me get to that solution. So I had published this challenge, and I challenged Vineet that, okay, I have this approach, and do you have something different? That was one. The second was actually a bigger challenge, which I haven't been able to solve, and anyone, if you want to approach, or if you want to help me in that, I'll talk about it, which is, again, I wanted to go one step further, that this visual, can we make it dynamic itself? So instead of just saying that, okay, over-indexed states versus under-indexed states, can I say over-indexed subcategory versus under-indexed subcategory by dynamically? If I just drag and drop, or maybe I change from a slicer and then gets changed, that's something for later. Next one is the approach which Vineet helped me with, and that helped me get a lot of understanding clear about DAX. But before going there, it's important that we get the idea of all selected, and all except. Those are like three DAX expressions which go hand in hand, and it's good that we get that clarified first. So for that, I'll quickly get into one of the the cases which I was working on. Let me just go there. Give me a second. Yeah, this was the one, and all right. So I'll come to a simple visual, and in this one, first of all, I created a simple pivot, and let me select this one, and can I duplicate this? Okay, yes. Let me be here. I'll go ahead and just duplicate this. I don't want to disturb the previous one. Let me keep it here. And what I'll do is in the visual, I've just kept customer segment. I'll just keep customer segment here. Okay. And I'm trying to show you what do we mean by, say, the all expression. What does it do, right? So all is again useful expression, or DAX expression function, which you can use in the situations where again you want to come out of the row context. So as you said, in this one, this is correct, because in the context of consumer, this is the total sales. In the context of corporate, this is the total sales. If you look at this one, I want to come out of this context and then want to get access the total sales. Where this could be useful, when you have to say calculate contributions, right? If you have to calculate what is the contribution in percentage of this state of say this segment, what is the contribution of this segment? So contribution, we need to get total, right? So X by total. So this is X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, and this is A plus B plus C plus D, right? So to get the contribution, I have to divide this by this by this, which means this needs to be constant across all. So how do we do this? So I'll just show you the expression for sales all. And just look at it, what I have done here. I have used a calculate, which is again calculate what's the expression and what's the context, right? So the calculation is same sum of sales. So if you see the first one is no measure. It's just like dragged. I just dragged sales and I got this one, which is simple. But this one, I do not need, if I do drag the sales again, it's going to be the same result. I want to come out of that current context or the row context. So to come out of that context, you basically use an all function. So all says that whatever filter is applied, you come out of that, right? So which means that it will say, if I go to Excel, it is same as, so when I'm applying a row context, what's happening? It's basically applying consumer. This is what a row context. So as soon as I apply all, what it does is it will say, okay, I'm coming out of it. It came out of it. It has now got access to the entire data. And then on that entire data, it has done a sum. It has done a sum, and this it is doing for every row, and the value is same, because for every row, you are coming out of the context. You're coming out of the context of corporate, which means again, you've got access to the entire data. You're summing it up. So you're getting all the same. But to get the contribution, what you'll do, you've got access to this one, sales, and you've got access to this measure called sales all, X by Y, format as percentage, done. Right? That will help you calculate the contributions. So this is where all is helping you. Okay. Now, if I have to, instead of all, if I go to this one, what I've done is same thing, but now we have all selected. Okay. So all selected, if I drag and drop here, no change yet. But if I click on consumer, you see what's happening. If I click on, say, corporate, what's happening? If I select both consumer and corporate, see what's happening, right? I selected consumer, corporate, home office. I've just left out small business. What's happening is as it says. Whichever category you select, consumer, corporate, home office, it's going to sum up those, and it will print out. So this 7273558 is actually a sum total of 18 plus 32 plus 21, right? And we're not having small business, but if you see, sales all not changed, it is still the same, right? So sales all doesn't care what filter is applied. It comes out of all, it removes all the filters applied and does the calculation in that current context. Just to add on to it, I'll go to the previous one. The same sales all and sales all selected. Okay, and in this one, if you see, what I have done is I have applied two basically it's a hierarchy. So there is a consumer filter already applied. Within consumer, you have technology, furniture, office supplies. Then within corporate, you have technology, furniture, office supplies. Here, if you see, I have done if sales is exactly what was expected. If I'm doing sales all here, what it is showing is it is showing some 35 lakh 14,000 or something for technology. So this 35 lakh 14,982. This is actually if you see here, 1 second, I have to look at the sales selected here, all selected here. Again, what is happening here? If you see, I have given a customer segment. Okay, you must be wondering that what is this 35,14,982? For that, I'll move to page number 7. Let me show here. If you see, when we talk about this one sales, okay, this is correct as it was expected. And look at sales all. What it did is it has come out of that context. So it has come out of the consumer context, but it is still under the context of furniture. So basically, if you see this one, this 31,78,623 is the sum total of this plus this plus this plus this. Which means if I go ahead and apply here furniture, this one, what is furniture, right? So product category as furniture. And then customer segment, let's go to customer segment is consumer. This is what is the context when we're talking about when we calculate 696, which means if I go here and if I click on this one, 696, right? That's what it is giving you. So when it says that now on in this scenario, if I go ahead and apply, do this all, so all would say, what is the context? Context is consumer. Please come out of it. Okay. So I'll come here and I'll say, okay, I'm coming out. Come out of this, but this context is still there, right? So yeah, if you see here, the sales all is giving the calculation that the total it is printing out here. But now the printing is happening within the context of furniture, here within the context of office supplies, here within the context of technology. And let me just click on the sales selected again. Right? And what is the difference between what I did here? Okay, this should be clear. If I go here, this is showing some gibberish again. This is not showing what we were thinking. Okay, it's showing some 35 lakh something 14. Problem is that if I look at the all selected here, we are telling that in all selected, you go for only this one, what the consumer segment, this one. So I can do all also, that's fine. So, okay. So here, I should pick up sales all actually, that will make it easier. Yeah. So I'm saying that you pick up all the unique values of customer segment, which means this will become clear if I just switch, if I bring customer segment down and product segment up. Now you go ahead and check. What was that 35 lakh? 35 lakh is nothing, but is the overall sales within technology. So this 35 lakh 14,982 is the overall sales. Okay, overall sales. If you sum up consumer, corporate, home office, and small business, 35,14,982. Okay, so what is happening here is, if in this case, when we were sales all selected. Okay, this case it was correct, but in this case I go back, it was just wrongly placed. I mean, it was confusing us because I'll move it again, or maybe I should move product category down, right? And let me expand this one. Okay, this if I have to correct, either I have to change the hierarchy, or if I don't change the hierarchy, what I have to do is in all selected, instead of segment, I have to call this this one category. And then if I say okay, so in this one, if you see now it is coming, it is showing correctly because this, all the sum of all this is equal to 32,692, right? And we know that all selected means that whatever is selected is going to pick that up. But if you see sales all, this sales all, I was expecting that it's going to come out of this and everything and is going to print out. That was the original intention, right? Because I want to, if I, in this case, I can calculate the contribution of furniture to the corporate segment. In the corporate segment, what's the contribution of furniture, right? So it will be X by Y. But I want to also calculate the contribution of furniture to the overall business, overall sales. For that, I need to divide this by this one, 8951, and not this. So in this case, basically, I'll have to see what's wrong. Basically, what I've done is I've actually asked, I've done the this one, all function on a column, because then it is going to pull out unique values, that deduplication, unique values of customer segment. I should take that off. I should simply do it on the table, which means any filter applied on the table, that's be gone. So if I say okay, done. This is what we are looking for. So this one is printing out the overall sales across every record, right? And this one is printing out overall sales, but it is within the context of corporate. So for furniture, it's coming out of the context, but it is still remains in the corporate context. But this one, it is completely coming out of all the context applied and talking at an overall table level. Now, if somebody says that calculate the contribution of all of them at different segment levels, you have to do X by Y. And somebody says calculate individual contributions at say overall level. So for example, what is the contribution of furniture within corporate segment to the overall sales, which would be this divided by this. So you get that contributions calculated, which are going to be percentages. All right. So, and all except, if I say this, there is another one called all except. If I go back. So here, if you see that we have this, say all except also. So if I calculate, say click out consumer and corporate, right? Here, if you see this one was fine. This is got filtered out, which is fine. In this one, again, by all selected means whichever is selected is going to sum them up and print it out. So consumer plus corporate, every time it's going to do consumer plus corporate, okay? This one, if you see all except is actually also doing the same thing. So I think there was some place where I'd given an example of all except. I'll have to just check where, if I change that, let me just go and check. So all except what I have mentioned, transactions table. It's just that all except you tell the table and you put in the segments. I'm saying except the selected consumer segment. Okay. So I think so. What it is doing is, let me just first of all filter it out. And Pranav and I'll just see if I'm doing right. So I'm just trying to find show a use case of this all except. So I'm just going to see. I've selected consumer and corporate. Okay. So let's come here. Consumer and corporate. So consumer and corporate. Let's see what is the total sales showing up. It is 5-1. So basically what it is doing is it is all except what you have asked for. Okay. So it is basically when we say all except means no. So what I first felt that except this one and this one, it's going to take the rest of them and it is doing the sum. What it says is that other than this, remove all the filters. That's what is the understanding what I understand, right? So the first shot, yeah, I would let Ashwar and all comment on this. So what I thought was all except means, okay, it should be the negative filtering, that whatever you applied, you do other than that, but it's not happening. But what it is doing it, whatever context you have provided, okay, whatever you have selected, keep this, remove every other filter.
Exactly.
True, exactly. And that's where this started then making sense that, okay, because it wants to, now it would like to come out of the filter. If I have applied filter context of furniture, it is going to come out of furniture also. So it's just going to be, okay, for consumer and corporate together, it's going to print out the sales. So that was an interesting understanding which I got, and but yeah, it was super confusing for quite some time for me. Well, that was a controversial statement. Nice. But yeah, that's the overall idea which I had, and there is rank also. So I'll just quickly show rank also. That okay, how do you think about, somebody asked me actually, so can you show that how do you think about ranking? So now if you have understood like the general idea of how DAX is working, this should be pretty easy to tackle, but just with one again one challenge, which again took me some time to get it clear, is if I have to first of all, what I'll do is, again, what I've done is simple. Okay, somebody is still joining in. That's nice. Okay. All right. So continuing here. So what I'm doing here is that what I did was, okay, I have to do a ranking, which means that right now, let me just remove the customer segment. Let's just keep as state. Yeah. So I have calculated my sales, and I just wanted to have say ranking, right? So the California is having highest sales, so let's have the rank as 1, and if we come down, Delaware is having rank 49. So I want to achieve this. So how do I achieve? So what I thought was, okay, for ranking, what it is going to do? It is going to pick up the value, what it is, and it's going to compare it across all the values, right? Then only we'll know that it is rank 1. So which means this again needs access to all the states separately. So it needs to come out of that context. So I said, okay, I think apply all will work. Okay. But then what I did was actually, which again where I started thinking is at this stage. So where I picked up the not here. This is all of this one, and I'll be picking up sales, M sales. So this one here, this needs to be a DAX expression again in order for this to work. So why this one? Why this? And if you look at what is this temp sales, if I come here, this temp sales is nothing but just simple sum of sales, and this is an explicit DAX expression actually. So I could straight away say try and use sum of sales here and get my job done. So I'll just go ahead and say try again my rank X. So I just say rank X, okay, and then it will ask me, okay, what's your table? So my table is say all of my state. My state is this one, state or province. All right, that's my all, and then it's asking me what's the expression. So I did sum of sales. Okay, close it, and I say okay. And I got this. Okay, anyone, this can come from anyone. Why it did not work? Okay. Correct, exactly. So what's happening here is when you're applying this, the context is already applied as California. So all it is going is just going to so we'll just go here, and let me just remove it again, and we pick up California here, and what it is doing is it is calculating the sales, which is correct, and since the context is already defined for ranking, it is straight away, it's basically comparing it with itself. So 1161,720 compared with itself always will give you rank 1. So here the context gets changed. So even if all is there, it's not able to do that. So in order to do that, we need to defer the calculation out of this. So first you come out of the context, then do the calculation, then start doing the ranking. So for that, in order to defer that calculation, I need to introduce a measure. And that's where we introduce a temp of sales measure, which comes out of the context, does the calculation, and then tells you what the rank. Hence, it should be able to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 now. And this is, hold on. this one, this one close. Where's my temp of sales? Yeah, temp of sales is transactions. So I'll just come here and rank X, and all I have to do is I have to just pass on it's my all, and then sales. Hold on, see. Okay, got stuck, not even clicking. All right, hold on. Anyways, so that again clarifies the idea of the ranking. Again, it's all mix of this all, or we want to come out of context, we want to stay within a context, right? So those are some of the fundamental ideas we are taking away. Another example here where we can use this one is, in this case, what we wanted to do was we wanted to calculate the average of this one of each city. So within a state, we wanted to do city-wise average. Okay, so here I would just take a little detour and get back to when we solved that visual, created that visual. How could we solve that visual by without creating that table? So without creating any table, could we solve it? I think we could solve it. And what I'll do is I'll just use an all expression. And I'll say, okay, hope it works. Okay. In this one, if you see, we are saying all state or province, and I'm picking up the this one, the sales, which is sum of sales, and then it should have done the average. This is the average X. Again, this X functions, they are going to do the calculation row by row. So I have done this. Oh wait, I have used the wrong table itself. Sorry. It should be transactions table. Yes. Okay, and let me say, commit this. Yeah. Right. So what happened? It came out of the context. It picked up all the states, applied the function, aggregation function, which is sum of sales, which is defined by this. And then once that outcome is there, then row by row, then it's basically row by row. And because X, whenever you do say an average X, so X basically goes for every row. So for every row here, Alabama, it is going to take all the states, do a deduplication, take the aggregation, do an average, print it here. Go to the next context, Arizona, comes out of the context, take all the deduplicated states, perform the sales aggregation, take an average, print it here. So what's happening is every time same thing is getting printed out. So you got the average, you got this in exactly the form you wanted. You wanted the sales, you wanted the average next to each other. And again, all you need to do is write a sort of a if else, and that will give you, or that will give you, or you can say, you can just compare that. Okay, I'm going to compare this with this, and then you can decide the color and print out. This is something which Vineet helped me with, and that this really helped me to get an idea that, okay, when you talk about X functions, X, when we say it happens row by row, this was a really good example which really helped me understand that. So all, and then using the average X, I could get this calculation done without getting into creating a separate DAX table. But again, if you see, this is all dynamic. This is all dynamically happening right here, right? So you can use this expression anywhere as long as your granularity is at state. Where comes my say problem, which I've also posted in the challenge, that what if I wanted to on the fly change state to say category? I want to change to category. Can I have the category sales printed, the sales average of this, that will be average of the category wise sales, and can this happen runtime? Because here, this is where the this one static part is coming, where I'm in the all expression, I'm defining state of province before itself, right? So could this become, and depending on what I'm dragging, it does this calculation by itself. That's the challenge I'm stuck at, and I'll be trying it out, but I'd really like all of you also to give it a shot and see that if it helps you, or if anybody has a solution. Yeah, what I'm saying is that I have done this one, and instead of this, I want to have, say, category, okay, and I want to do this thing. If I do this thing, this is going to work, okay? Yeah. But what I'm doing is now this got changed. Now this is not right, okay? Yeah. So I should have the same, the expression should be the same, as I'm changing the context. So instead of state, if I change that to product, now to correct this, what I'll have to do is I have to bring product category here and take this away. Now this would be correct. Okay, now this is correct because this one is like a category, this one, average of this plus this plus this, right, by 3. But now my visual is gone, state is gone, and now it has become product category. So I had to change the measure, I had to create 2 measures. And as many times, as many categories or as many dimensions I have, as many calculations I'll have to do. Right. That's the challenge I'm stuck at, and I posted in the in my website also, and I would be really keen to know that if anybody can think through this. Okay. Yeah. So this should be closed. After average X here itself. Okay, let me remove everything. Oh, base field is sales. Okay. So if you see here I have, this one is again, it is because the granularity of my data set is at transaction level. So it is doing the average of this entire transactions of whatever I selected. So, but again, what I'm looking for here is the average of these, not going to that level. So here, if I do an average, this one, this is going to do the average of at a transaction level. So that's why you're getting such a small value, which is 949. Okay. Yeah. So that's fine. Anyways, it's 1 p.m. We have like short over 4 minutes, but it was just to come together and think through some of these ideas and try out. So I don't think I've covered a lot of others, but yeah, I thought like it's better that we clarify a few things rather than dumping in everything. So and again, keep it for a later session, or I would also plan to record some of those use cases, and I can put it up as challenges. So I'd encourage everybody come forward, try out things in your free time, and I'm sure that there would be some scenarios you'd face at work where you get into such kind of calculations which you need to do. So I sincerely hope that this helped, and just go to our website and you could find out there are many. If you're able to do it, or after this, if this motivates you that okay, no, I really want to work this out, I can send across this workbook, whichever I have worked on to you. But I have also kept the solution of this recorded, and I've kept on the channel, on the video challenge itself. You can go and watch the solution. But I always say that, okay, first give it a shot, an honest try, and then go and watch, because that helps you to exercise your brain muscle. So that will help you. So I hope the session today was helpful. Sorry, Pranav, I didn't let you talk a lot. But I think the contribution from you, Ashwar, was very good. So thanks a lot for supporting. And yes, once we are done, we will be posting up the recording of this. If this helped you, please go ahead and support us. And We have kept our QR code. If you think this helped you in any way, you could support us with anything. So this will just help us to design good quality, really good quality challenges, because it's not that I'm just creating out of figment of my imagination. It's coming up with a lot of discussions with people out there, with people who are seniors. So we are putting in some effort, and if you think it's something which is helping you, just support us with anything you can, and that's be super kind of all of you. And keep supporting us. We will be putting up a post on LinkedIn. Do spread and call in people, anyone, your colleagues, your juniors. If you think they can benefit from our programs, do call them. And I said that we are all about problem solving. We don't do courses. We expect that you're doing something. If you really need that, okay, I can't do this, there is Google out there, there's YouTube out there. We help with a lot of curated content. We say, hey, go and watch this guy's video. He's an excellent content creator. Why should I recreate something which is already done? So that's where at Mentor School, we have been focusing on problems, challenges, scenarios, and we just work on those and try to learn from that scenario. And we'll keep doing such sessions more in future. So keep a note on our company page on LinkedIn. Go ahead, if you can follow that. We keep posting challenges. Whenever you get free time, spend some time, sort of brain gym, you can do that. And feel good, spread out the message. In the challenge, we have also put our Slack channel link. You can go and click and join and just contribute, learn, share. And the more you contribute, the more we grow. So hoping that I did not waste any single moment of the last 2 hours. And thanks a lot for your time.